6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time to have a look on the latest stories from Channel 2. I'm Abir Mitwali be presenting the news bulletin. On behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli delivers a speech at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Plus Summit. Foreign Minister Badr Abdel Ati holds meetings on sidelines of the 20th round of the Bled Strategic Forum in Slovenia. And humanitarian and relief aid trucks resume entering into Gaza through Rafah border crossing. Welcome back. The news in detail. Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli stressed that Shanghai summit comes in critical international conditions that threatens the credibility of the multilateral international system. In his speech at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Plus Summit in the city of Tianjin, on behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, Madbouli said that the Israeli continuous war against the Palestinian people is not a war for political targets or releasing hostages, but it is a war of starvation and liquidation of the Palestinian question. He also underscored Egypt's condemnation of Israeli expanded military operations in Gaza Strip, which is an attempt by the occupation to displace the Palestinian people from their land. Madbouli also renewed Egypt's fixed stance regarding establishing a unified Palestinian state on the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital, which is the only way for a fair and comprehensive solution for the stability of the region. Addressing the summit, Madbouli also affirmed that Egypt is a high-populated country that lives in a desert environment that totally depends on the Nile River to meet its water needs. He added that the cooperation principle with the Nile Basin countries represents the main part of reaching the best means to manage joint water resources. In another context, Madbouli said that developed technological applications, especially the AI, is a main incentive to achieve sustainable development. Chinese President Xi Jinping urged Shanghai Cooperation Organization members to leverage their mega-scale market on Monday, while unveiling his ambition for a new global security and economic order that poses a challenge to the United States. In opening remarks addressing more than 20 world leaders at a two-day summit held in northern China's port city, Tianjin, Xi said that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has set a model for a new type of international relations. He said the countries should advocate for equal and orderly multipolarization on the world, inclusive economic globalization, and promote the construction of a more just and equitable global sovereign system. He added that China will provide 2 billion yuan of free aid to member states this year and further 10 billion yuan to loans to a SCO banking consortium. Also, at the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in what could be an emerging challenge to America's global leadership, Putin used his speech to defend Russia's Ukraine offensive, blaming the West for triggering the 3.5-year conflict. He said the crisis wasn't triggered by Russia's attack on Ukraine, but was a result of a coup in Ukraine, which was supported and provoked by the West. Putin said the second reason for the crisis is the West's constant attempts to drag Ukraine into NATO. Egypt hosts an official G20 meeting in Cairo from September the 1st to September the 3rd. Egypt's presidential representative in G20, Ambassador Raghi Al-Itribi, stressed the necessity of solving the issue of food security with the cooperation of all sectors of G20, pointing that it will not be solved without treating the multilateral trading system. He also said that what is happening in the Palestinian territories, especially in Gaza, is a systematic and deliberate policy to use starvation as a weapon to break the will of Palestinian people in facing Israeli aggression. This came in his speech addressing the G20 meeting on discussing the outcomes of action group concerned with food security in the first official meeting of the group in Cairo. Finance Ahmed Kujuk said that Egypt is allocating 20% of its budget each year to support food security. Kujuk added that Egypt's food security programs provide support for over 60 million Egyptians every year and supported Egypt's food security during the global problems. This is the first official G20 meeting ever held outside the G20 member states since the group's establishment in 1999. Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati stressed the importance of economic and investment partnership with Slovenia. This came during his meeting with Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob on the sidelines of the G20th round of the Bled Strategic Forum on Monday and Tuesday in the city of Bled. Abdelati also reiterated Egypt's keenness on reaching ceasefire deal in Gaza, hailing Slovenia's balanced stance, and reaffirmed the importance that the international community, especially the EU, shoulders responsibility in facing grave violations carried out by Israel against civilians and putting pressures to stop escalation. Abdelati also held meeting with Albania's counterpart Edi Rama on the sidelines of Bled Strategic Forum, stressing the importance of Egypt-Albania's bilateral ties and historical friendship. He also stressed the importance of boosting economic and bilateral cooperation between the two countries. The entry of humanitarian and relief aid trucks into the Gaza Strip resumed within the framework of continued efforts to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinians in the Strip. The 27th Zaid al-Izza convoy started moving from the Rafah crossing, heading to Karm Abu Salim crossing to enter the Strip. The convoy trucks are carrying food and medical relief aid to meet the needs of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. Israeli occupation forces pushed tanks deeper into Gaza City and detonated explosive-laden vehicles in one suburb as airstrikes killed at least 19 people today. The Palestinian Health Ministry said at least 98 Palestinians were killed by Israeli occupation fire across the enclave in the past 24 hours. Local health authorities said the 14 people, including women and children, were killed in Israeli occupation airstrikes on houses in Gaza City as tanks briefly crossed into Sheikh Radwan. 9 more people, including 3 children, have also died of malnutrition and starvation over the past day, raising deaths from such causes to at least 348, including 127 children. More than 22 months genocide war in Gaza has killed over 63,000 Palestinians, mostly civilians, women, and children. The world's leading Genocide Scholars Association has passed a resolution saying that the legal criteria have been met to establish Israelis are committing genocide in Gaza. 86% of those who voted among the 500 members, International Association of Genocide Scholars, backed the resolution. They said Israel policies and actions in Gaza meet the legal definition of genocide in Article 2 of the United Nations Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. In Gaza, Hamas welcomed the resolution. It said that the resolution places a legal and moral obligation on the international community to take urgent action to stop the crime, protect civilians, and hold the leaders of the occupation accountable. The German government's representative for human rights and humanitarian aid said Monday that Israel must immediately improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza. More in the coming report.
The German government's representative for human rights and humanitarian aid said Monday that Israel must immediately improve humanitarian conditions in Gaza ahead of a trip to Israel and Palestinian territory. Until recently, Israel has enjoyed broad support across political spectrum in Germany, but Chancellor Friedrich Merz's tone towards Israel has sharpened as the dire humanitarian situation in Gaza has deteriorated. Last month, the United Nations officially declared a famine in Gaza after a UN-backed report warned that 500,000 people were facing catastrophic conditions in the war-ravaged territory. A lawmaker of the Social Democrats which govern with Merz conservatives, said that the Israeli government must improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza immediately, comprehensively, sustainably, and in accordance with humanitarian principles and international law.
Welcome back. Egypt today expressed its deep condolences to the people of Afghanistan over the victims of the deadly earthquake that struck eastern the country. In a foreign ministry statement, Egypt voiced its complete solidarity with the Afghani people and government in such a tragic time, offering its sincere condolences to the families of the victims and wishing a speedy recovery to the wounded. Earlier, a massive rescue operation was underway in Afghanistan today after a strong earthquake and multiple aftershocks flattened homes in the remote mountainous region, killing more than 800 people. The earthquake struck just before midnight, shaking buildings from Kabul to neighboring Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, more than 1.2 million people likely felt strong or very strong shaking. And two Yemen Houthis said today they launched a missile towards the Liberia-flagged Israeli-owned tanker Scarlet Ray ship near Saudi Arabia's Red Sea port. City of Yambo British maritime security firm Amber said on Sunday that a tanker reported an explosion nearby southwest of Yambo. The United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation said a vessel reported a splash in close proximity from an unknown projectile and heard a loud bang, adding that the vessel's crew were all safe and it was continuing to its next voyage. In a later update, Amber said it assessed the vessel to be aligned with the targets of Yemen's Houthis profile, given that it was publicly Israeli-owned. Egypt's stock market indices closed higher today amid local investor net purchases against Arab and foreign investor sell-offs. The benchmark EGX 30 index rose 0.3% above the 35,158-point mark. The equal-weighted indices EGX 70 and 100 both surged 0.8%. European Central Bank Chief Christine Lagarde said today it would be very dangerous for the global economy if U.S. President Donald Trump took control of U.S. monetary policy. Trump is seeking to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, a move that critics say aims to fill the central bank with officials who will support his calls for lower interest rates. Lagarde told France Radio Classique that it would be very difficult for Trump to completely swing the majority of the Fed's policymaker body in his favor. She noted that the central bank's policies affect price stability and aims to ensure optimal employment. Welcome back. Led by coach Hossein Hassan, the national selection started their group training sessions as part of their preparation for the upcoming African World Cup qualifications against Ethiopia and Burkina Faso. The Pharaohs host the Ethiopian side on September 5th at the Cairo International Stadium in the 7th qualifying round, and they clash with the Burkina Faso rivals on the 9th of September in the 8th qualifying round. The Egyptians top Group A on 16 points after a 6th straight winning streak to inch closer to booking place in the 2026 World Cup to be held in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Champions Liverpool struck an early season title blow against rivals Arsenal in 1-0 Premier League victory at Anfield in the dying minutes. With both teams winning their opening 2 games, the afternoon was a chance to set an early tone for the season, but it appeared to be heading for a goalless draw in a game billed as a battle between titans. Liverpool, who have the only 100% record left in the top tier, go into the international break in a familiar position on top of the table as they chase a record 21st English title. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching, and please stay tuned.